And like, that should have told him he was kind of the McMahon of the show. And he still felt like he had to, well, I guess, be the McMahon of the show and make sure everybody knew. And it's like, why? I never understood it. But everything went to November. He finished his thing with Shawn, which I still didn't understand why he was the main of the first half. I know you'd said something like he had hurt himself with the shoot job earlier in the day or something, or that week. But I mean, if he was able to go out and do it as semi-main, or main in the first half, I don't know why he couldn't have done it main of the show. But regardless, that's his own thing.
I don't remember a whole lot of that show.
Yeah. I know, yeah, because all I remember from that show is I wrestled Damian Minister. So, that was like a 5-minute match. I had someone there from work and they were all angry because I only wrestled like a 5-minute match. But anyway, so in November, after the November show, that was his final show as an owner. And then he sent us a text in December saying he was done. And he'd give us the cash box of the title, and that was it. He didn't want to be contacted. I was a little caught off guard, but all right. And that was kind of the end of BMF, really. I mean, when he left, when he decided to leave, it's like we don't have Brian involved at all anymore. We don't have Martin involved at all anymore. And by the way, we did finally pay Martin. I think Christmas Eve was the final installment of payments. Yeah, it took us, 8 months?
Yeah, and like I said, we'll get to that also in the Brian thing, because this just kind of touches on, we could combine them all, but it'll go on forever.
Don't worry, we tried, and it went way too long. But yeah, I mean, the ownership, the BMF ownership was... In the beginning, I really liked it. Like, now I'm to the point where, yes, I still love it, but it's like, I hate dealing with the backstage stuff, especially because in this business, you have no friends. Like, I am honestly a firm believer in this business that friendships are, I guess, overrated. But it's like, you just can't trust anybody. But being an owner, it's kind of cool, because if you have an idea, as long as everybody, as long as, like, your partner's on board, you can run with an idea and you don't have to go, I hope the promoter says yes. You can just walk in and say, hey, I have this idea. You mind if we try it? Yeah, sure, why not? Okay, then, cool. We're both on board. It's cool to do that. It's rewarding when you come up with an idea for someone and it works. Or you come up with an idea and the crowd reacts the way you want it. It's like, that is a rush. But all that can kind of be fizzled by dealing with the politics, and even as an owner, you run into the politics and this guy being mad because you did this, and he's all angry, or that guy over there saying, I want to start my own promotion, and you have this guy working for you, so I'm going to take him. Like, dealing with all that is enough to actually make you want to kill yourself. And I don't mean that figuratively. I mean, seriously, it makes you stand there in Walmart looking at the guns and going, dude, if I could afford this and some bullets, I'd be gone. Or walking down one of the other aisles and you see a rope and you're just like, I gotta find a place in my house to hang it from, and then I'll be set. I mean, if you ever have a chance to promote a show that you're not... Like, running your own show is one thing, coming up with it and doing it on your own accord, but do not, I beg of you, if you ever have the opportunity, do not inherit a promotion.
Yep.
I cannot stress that enough. If we would have ran our own promotion, I think we'd be a little happier, because all the ideas we had in the beginning and how gung-ho we were, it fizzled out once Brian came in, and then Brian went on to sell. When Brian came back, and everything was cool for a while, and then it fizzled out because Brian started, just kind of stepping on our desire. And then he sold it to other people who didn't know what they were doing. And just by the time we got around to us owning it, it's like, we fought so hard to get here that, like, now we're almost out of energy. Damn. And we're trying so hard to keep it, but, there's just times where it's like, you get stabbed in the back enough times, you just want to start killing people. So, I mean, yeah, it's just, the ownership is great on some levels, and on other levels, it just kills you.
pretty much wrap up the BMF days and the ownership, the good and bad, the backstory, and all that stuff. Like I said, we'll get more into the Brian stuff and the more in-depth stuff with Brian. But overall, I'll be happy to say that what we did in the beginning was fantastic. I loved it. I loved it up until, even when Brian came back, pretty much till November of that year, and it just kind of fell apart. I mean, it just pretty much from April, that 6 month span from April to October was just, for the most part, was excellent. I loved it in 2010. And then, like I said, November came along and just...
And then, you know, and to be honest, we kept it afloat. We kept our desire afloat going through our storyline. And we'll touch on the storyline later because we'll have a whole chapter devoted to it. But, you know, our storyline ended the following March and everything was good. And then when April rolled around, there were some personal things that came up that month. But also, it's just... I think we had just devoted so much time to our storyline and trying to get the storyline over and making it work that, like, we devoted so much time to it that, like, by the time it was done, I think we took like a month off and let the other two guys run it for a month, and that was a mistake. But we took that month off, and I think we just enjoyed it too much, and I know I got to a point later, and I'll touch on this in the Triumph chapter, I got to the point that following August where I was just like, you know what, let's get to the following March and I'm done. Like, I was gonna leave. But we'll touch on that later. But yeah, it's just up until March, pretty much after March is when my desire kind of fell off the cliff because I was just tired of dealing with all the politics. But yeah, that wraps up the BMF chapter, and now I guess we move on to this next chapter, you know. Brian and
Billy. Hi, Billy.
And stuff. Well, and we also got to get to Triumph and how it formed and stuff. That's in there too. But we've got all kinds of good stuff coming up. Yeah, you'll
Stay
want to
tuned.
watch.